Welcome to the Second Mess Podcast, one-stop shopping for Norwich nostalgia, networking, and news from the Hill. Stand by for your host, Randall H. Miller.
No doubt.
Let's jump in. Where are you joining us from today?
I'm in Florida, bro. I'm in Florida.
So you worked and retired down there.
I moved down here for the job back in 90. Broward Sheriff's Office posted an advertisement in the Boston Globe. And come to Florida, man. Come to Broward County, Florida, Broward County Sheriff's Office. Cops. You know, remember like when the Cops show came out?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That was them. And and then I decided to stay. I moved. I'm in northern Florida now, which is a little beach community, very chill, very, the ocean puts you to sleep at night, man. It's nice.
That is nice.
Instead of sirens and gunshots down in Broward County.
Yeah, you don't sound like you're from Florida. Where'd you go to high school?
I'm a masshole. I grew up in Malden. Yeah, Malden, Medford area.
Of course, that's not far from me.
No.
Did you go to Malden Catholic?
No, God, listen, man. I Malden High, bro. Malden High, public school education.
There you go.
I'm sure Jack Kelly would have preferred me going to Malden Catholic, but it wasn't in the cards. So we made Malden High work.
And how'd you get from there to Northfield?
Listen, you know what happened? So I've got some uncles that were very influential. One was a Green Beret captain, Special Forces, Vietnam. The other flew rescue choppers in Nam. And so that whole I want to serve, but not really knowing if I wanted to go all in. And needing a congressional appointment to go to West Point or Annapolis, that wasn't happening. And so we started looking at, a military college. What's a military? What the hell is a military college? What's that entail? And man, after visiting Norwich, you just got a sense like, man, this place is different, man. This is special. And it was going to allow me to get a real education and have the option to go into the military or not. I'm like,
right.
You got to be kidding me, and it was like some sort of hybrid model that just worked for somebody that didn't know what he wanted to do. It gave you a million options. And so that was like, all right, man, this is where I'm going. And so, yeah, I, after 85 and then that summer we were doing the white shirt and khaki pants thing, man.
The fun stuff.
Oh my God.
So you went up and visited then when you were like a senior in high school?
Yeah, we took on one of those trips. I don't think I stayed over or anything. I would have remembered that. But like I went up and checked out the campus and, whoever was in charge of recruiting or admin, whatever that jam was. And it like I said, it just offered so many options. And, I'd be remiss without pointing out some discipline, man, some structure, because things got nutty there as it was. Can you imagine, not having the additional structure of having to get up, room inspections, personal inspections, PT? I don't know that I would have survived college. I barely survived Norwich,
dude. I'd still be there.
Oh,
if I didn't go to a place like Norwich.
Yeah, no, I think so. It definitely, it accelerated you maturing in a really positive way. That those skill sets that you don't learn in regular college, like giving a shit about each other. Like this, none of that takes place in regular college.
Right.
You understanding that there's something bigger than you. You don't learn those lessons at regular college. Sacrifice and hard work, commitment, all those things, man. It was just, you don't know when you're in it the lessons you're being taught, right? It's only until after you leave and you get out into the real world that you go, holy smokes, man, this place, not only did it prepare me, like it was a blessing.
It teaches you how to deal with discomfort and
Oh,
just suck it up.
oh yeah. And I think that's probably like one of the things that most people never learn, right? They never learn, you know, what it's like to have a bad day or to struggle or to um, fail. And then how do you negotiate that? How do you navigate that? How do you get back up? And for I'll say for the first year, right? That's what you were excellent at failing and getting back up and doing all of that while still taking a full academic load of courses. Not easy, man, not easy. And it kind of prepared you for like, hey, listen, we're going to throw some stuff at you and you're going to deal with it and you will be successful. And this is how, right? And
Yeah.
this is how. And I thought that was listen, you and I, this will be a 4-hour podcast if we go on and on about all the takeaways from Norwich. But man, that was one of them. That was, we're going to test you. You're going to fail, and then we're going to show you how you get back up. And I thought that was pretty awesome.
So was it General Todd, right? Was president?
Yeah, man. Yeah. He was there for the entirety of our time there.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think he got there maybe a year or two before you showed up. So he had his feet wet there. And was the commandant, was that Tony Carboni at that time?
Carboni was there. Uh-huh.
Yep. Yep. He has since passed.
Has he? Oh.
Yeah. He was a hardcore dude.
Yeah. You know what I loved about that place too? And the command there. They were ahead of their time, man. They looked out for us.
Mm-hmm.
In a real sense. And having that Skull and Swords kind of be the big brothers to everybody, which was a real cool dynamic. Because I had some like they came to John Kelly's rescue on more than one occasion when I was being looked for by the Vermont State Police and everybody else, man. That school, man. If you were a good egg and you just stepped out of bounds a little bit, they would circle the wagons, man. They would circle the wagons and they would take you. You might pay the price internally, right? You might get your ass whooped a little bit, but we're not throwing you to the wolves, man.
Yeah.
We're gonna handle it in-house. And that's one of the things, I was a beneficiary of that policy, man. Like we take care of our own. I thought that was super cool too. Like moving forward, like you understood the importance of taking care of your people.
Yeah. And it taught me like life lessons is that, everybody screws up. It doesn't have to be the end of the world. So after I was done and got out, as a platoon leader or just, in general, if somebody screwed up, you let them know they screwed up, but then you let them know, keep going, that it wasn't all over.
Yeah, no. And that's, 100%. Another great lesson, man, was, all right, just don't keep doing the same stupid thing over and over again.
Right.
Like, if you screw up, like learn the lesson, man, and then move forward. And yeah, that was, dude, so many great memories and takeaways from a time that was everybody else was going to UMass Amherst and or wherever, and they was just you never felt like you were missing out.
Mm-hmm.
At least I didn't. I mean, because it was a different experience.
Yeah, I felt like I was accomplishing something.
Yeah,
not just partying my ass off.
Yeah, and quite frankly, after you get recognized, I was up there and the drinking age was 18. Still.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Listen, I was like, wait, what are we doing? Oh,
how do we get to Burlington? Who's got gas money?
Yeah, listen, the hitchhiking, and then once you could have a car, it is really, Randy, amazing that the people that we ran with are still that we made it out of that environment because God, Buddha, whoever you pray to, was in the front seat with us the entire time, man, because it's really a miracle that we made it through that place relatively unscathed.
Did you make it to Montreal much?
Oh, Montreal, Burlington was the the no
That was
brainer,
easy.
man. But
Yeah.
Montreal, yeah, on more than one occasion, um, because you could,
Right.
and but yeah, how about? Oh my God, I'm sure it's well. I shouldn't say I'm sure it's not there anymore. Do you remember? Was the Blue Fox there when you
Mm-mm.
got up there?
I don't think so.
It was this little shit bar down the road, and it was like it might as well have been what's that famous nightclub in New York City?
Studio 54.
It was Studio 54 for Northfield. It was, it was just the best, man. It was the best, and got a lot of shenanigans going on there, man. That's for sure.
What company were you in? Do you remember which barracks?
I was in Echo Company, in Goodyear Hall. If
Mhm.
that's I'm sure that's still there, right?
Of course.
I haven't
Yeah.
I haven't missed out on them demolishing any big buildings, right?
Not yet.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, I was in Echo Company, Goodyear Hall, and um I was there some guys moved around different companies depending on their I was there from beginning to end. And it's a great time, man. Great time. Great experience.
CJ Major, right?
Yeah. So listen, I started off as a physics major.
Oh, Jesus.
Listen, I'm half a moron, bro. Listen, I don't even know what I was thinking. I did well in high school physics. Like I don't ask me how, but I did. And like, oh, you should be a physics major. You really okay. Dude, I got blown out of the water. Listen, I was showing up to class with my Sports Illustrated calculator that I got free for subscribing to the magazine.
Right.
And there were guys in that room with computers before we had computers.
Yeah.
And I just went, oh God, what's wrong with this picture, man? And so my the only blessing was my academic advisor was my physics teacher. And I was like, hey, I'm bailing, right? Like this, I'm to say I'm in over my head is the understatement of the year.
You're
gonna be
getting
a criminal.
smoked.
I'm getting it would have been, I think it would have been better had I not taken the tests at all. I got negative points when I took the test. And he was just like, so you're going to be a I'm going to be a criminal justice major. I said, but it would be really awesome if I could squeak by with a passing grade. So my science requirement gets handled here.
Right.
And he was like, yeah, man, you're doing the work. You're an imbecile, but we'll give you a D. And so you don't have to take, another science elective. Best of luck in criminal justice. Don't ever come back in this building again. I'm like, deal, man, deal.
So you transferred over to Stan Shernock's domain.
Stan and Max.
Yep.
And Bill.
Yep. I was a CJ major too.
Dude, it was a great program. It was a great
was.
program.
Still is.
I got to do ride-alongs with Vermont State Police when they weren't looking for me, and I had the opportunity to intern at the Attorney General's office. So they had some connections, and it was a thriving program back then. I thoroughly enjoyed my time there.
Yeah, it still is. It's still the biggest program. And actually, I had the head of it on the show last year, Professor
Okay.
Gurion. She's great. Yeah.
Okay.
It's still they're still humming along, and they do lots of programs like that. So did you get like bit by the bug then and say, okay, I want to go into law enforcement?
So I went in '87. I went to OCS in the Marine Corps. So I was thinking judge advocate. So I was toying with the idea of law school, and somehow, and then really listen, the reality hit me in the head. I'm not that bright, bro. I'm not that bright. I'm good at, if you give me a hammer and some nails, I can make something for you. But when it comes to all those other kind of courses. And I think I was done with formal education at that time and committing another 3 years to something. And then if you do it in the judge advocate program, like one of every 1,000 gets accepted into. I'm looking at the numbers. I'm going, yeah, listen, not probably going to be a good fit for me. I'm more of a hands-on guy. And so I started looking at opportunities in law enforcement. First up there, Mass Stadies, Connecticut Stadies, and the like. And that was 90, 91. And there wasn't a lot of room in the end for baby Jesus up there. So John Kelly had to go south. And
those days too, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but those days too, it was like, I mean, now they can't recruit to save their ass, but back in those days, if the Mass State Police had an exam, they had 3,000 people apply for it. Even the local departments, they had their pick of the litter of candidates.
Yeah, it was well said. It was definitely a different dynamic. You were competing, and even when I came to Florida, you were competing with hundreds of people for 2 spots. And, but it just, for whatever reason, maybe crime was more, crime in the early 90s, South Florida was kind of ramping up pretty good. So it was a priority to get people hired through the academy and get them on the road. And I think I was probably a beneficiary of that environment. And so I got picked up by the Broward Sheriff's Office in 91.
Did they have high turnover too?
Not then, no. But this is what the Broward Sheriff's Office was doing. They were, so the Broward County, they would contract with the local municipalities to provide police services. So they were typically county sheriff's offices patrol unincorporated areas. But what they were doing, and traditionally, I know up north, they just handled the jail. The Broward County Sheriff's Office is a complete public safety umbrella. And so they were taking over cities and providing police services. So they were growing. Not only would they keep the guys on that were patrolling that city, but they would also, because of contractual agreements, add more bodies to patrol districts and all that. So it was a growing organization back in the 90s.
I think you're right. I live in Essex County. I rarely see a sheriff or a deputy. I mean, rarely. And when you do, they're transporting a prisoner.
Right. That's a difference, I think, between the northern sheriff's offices and the further south you come, they're a full service, law enforcement organization from A to Z. From A to Z.
Does Broward have its own academy?
They don't have their own academy. They have there's a criminal justice institute training at the Broward County College, and basically all the agencies in Broward County send their people to that academy to get trained up. And then each organization has another, once you get out of there, then you go through an in-house little mini academy with your own, respective agencies. And then off you go, man. Off you go.
Was it your plan to do 30 years at the time?
Can I tell you, Randy, I had such a great time, man. Like, I'd still be doing it probably if I didn't have to leave. The blessing, right, is about every 5 years, I had an opportunity to do something different. So, road patrol, field training officer, detective. I worked in apprehension, patrol dog in the 90s. Just tearing it up, man. Training division, spent a lot of time there. And then I finished up as a motor sergeant, riding motorcycles, bro. I mean,
you get to do it all then, huh?
I had like a blessed career. Now, I still managed to screw things up. I wouldn't be, for our listeners, JT, right? That's what everybody called me at Norwich, JT. But yeah, man, blessed career. Got to do a lot of cool and amazing things. But I still ended up getting sideways from time to time.
Now Broward's the biggest county or the county sheriff's department in Florida, right?
Yeah, it's I believe it is. It's like the second or third in the country. So the Broward County Sheriff's Office is a full public safety uh entity. So we got fire rescue. Everything is under that umbrella. Airport, seaport, port system, child protective services, jail, road patrol, special ops division, helicopters, boats, horses.
That's like NYPD.
Yeah, man. Like we got not as big as NYPD because
Right.
that's a monster, but we got about 6,000 employees. So it's a hefty sized agency right now.
A lot of organized crime, right? Gang violence.
A lot of everything. And it's all, it's funny, the county, the crimes, every city in Broward County's got an area that you don't want to be in after dark, even the nice areas. And so, a lot of gang activity, just a lot of activity, man. A lot of, the melting pot,
Right.
South Florida, the great melting pot. Not so much, man. Not a lot of melting going on. Lot of this, lot of head bump, lot of head banging going on. But yeah, just what I mean to tell you, between drugs, gang violence, people just being predators, victimizing whomever they can. There was never a dull moment, because the whole rationale is like there's still something to take in Broward County, like Dade County. So you got Dade County, which is Miami,
right?
Broward County moving up the coast, which is basically Fort Lauderdale, and then you got Palm Beach County, which is Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump, and all that, and so the crime has a wave, and it moves north, man. So there's nothing left in Dade County to take, and so all the bad guys and all the nonsense move north, right, to the next county up. And so, yeah, it was a good run, man. A lot of activity, a lot of fun.
A lot of stress.
Stress. You don't know it's stress. Like you don't know in the moment that it's stress. You don't know about cortisol levels. You don't know about hypervigilance. You don't know about, all the things that once you've been around for a little bit. But I wouldn't say stress. I'd say excitement. It was never ending, in a really good way,
And non-existent were words like self-care, buddy check, PTS. Those things just weren't talked about.
Not even talked. We didn't have definitions for them.
Yeah.
Like there was no PTS, or there's no, and this is the thing, like, if you don't know, like, I can't provide and be a good example for you if I don't know, right? So like, if my indoctrination is, well, this is how we do it, then that's how we do it, and then I pass that on to the guys that I train, and they pass that on to the guys that they train,
right?
And it's just the way it is, man. And so it isn't. I didn't know. I started figuring some things out in year 20, 25. But you're talking about, doing something for a significant amount of time with no real guidance, direction. And so that's kind of why I'm doing what I'm doing now, because, that epiphany, that light bulb that goes, wait a minute, man. Nobody's telling anybody that's how that's going to end. Like, I've seen that movie before. I know how it ends. Let's get ahead. Let's get involved on the front end. Let's start doing some proactive. We're reactive by nature, but let's change the narrative. If we know the pitfalls, right? If we know the things that are going to jam us up, if we know where we're going to fail and falter, We got to be preparing, educating, empowering, equipping, giving our guys and girls the tools and skill sets to thrive. Like that's we're morally obligated to do that. Or you can just sit back and go, well, they're grown, they'll figure it out, knowing very well that they won't. And so, yeah, that's that like epiphany I said. You come across something, you go, oh, it's a better way. There's a better way. And I think that's in your own life, if you figured some things out, you share with the people the things you figured out so they don't repeat the same mistakes.
Well, I've read a bunch of your stuff. I've seen a bunch of your videos from talks you've given. You do not hold back. You are definitely you are authentic, and you don't sugarcoat anything, and you call it what it is.
Randy, I think that, listen, somebody else can sugarcoat it, brother. Somebody else can make you feel good about the shitty decisions you've made. It's not gonna be me, right? Because I don't think I serve you well if I do that. I think if I truly care, right? If I care about you and I want nothing but the best for you, well, sometimes that gets messy, man. Sometimes feelings get hurt. And at the end of the day, the goal is for you to be better than I was, to be a better version, to constantly grow, develop, and be an absolute best version of you that you can be. And that doesn't happen if we bullshit ourselves or we pretend that situations we've created, don't exist. So yeah, when I talk and I get into a room, like I tell them, hey, I'm bringing a gift for you, man, and some of you are not gonna like it.
Right.
Some of you are not gonna like this gift. Some of you are gonna love it. I go, and it's a mirror. We're gonna look into a mirror today, and depending on what we see, we're gonna make some changes, or we're gonna double down on some good activity. And I tell you what, man, it's been really well received. I think there comes a point, Randy, where people are just tired of bullshit. That just like, is what we've been doing working? Is it moving the needle? And if it's not, then maybe we need to change the way we approach it. And so that's why I think, when I talk about, I come out and I come out swinging. Some people have said to me, after my first break, they go, "Oh, you're a lot, man. You're a lot to take in." I go, it's all right. I go, but you'll get used to it. You'll warm up.
You're also you're not really so you're not pointing fingers. You are, but you're pointing at yourself first. You're bearing your soul. So it's hard to say, okay, I'm getting my ass chewed here, I'm getting called out, when you're calling yourself out first.
Listen to me. You hit the nail on the head, Rent. Listen, I can be brutal. Nobody in the room gets beat up by me. I beat myself up, right? And if I do that, and then you see a little bit of you and me, that's the connection that I'm trying to establish. Because listen, we are carbon copies of each other to a greater or lesser extent, man. Your problems are my problems, brother. My problems are your problems. Life happens to all of us, right? Everybody's got shit that they've got to deal with. And if we could just acknowledge that everybody's got a cross to bear. And one of the things that I talk about, and I talk about my alcoholism, my addictions. I talk about my infidelity, talk about destroying my family.
Those are the three A's.
Yeah, man. The three A's.
Addiction. What were they?
Alcoholism, addiction, and infidelity. Well, those are my three.
Right.
Adulterer, alcohol,
addiction, and adultery. Yeah.
Adultery,
that was the first
A's,
first video I watched, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah, man.
Wow. Just right out there.
Yeah. And it's just, listen, because the problem is we want to change culture. And you can't change culture if you can't talk about things that are going on within the culture. Like, it just doesn't happen that way. So I say it's the threat of AI. When I talk to a room full of cops, the threat of AI, and everybody starts thinking about robots and computer programs taking over the world. Say it's not artificial intelligence. It's alcohol and infidelity, man. That's if we could just stop accepting unacceptable behavior from each other, right? First from within ourselves. See, but we don't, man. We don't. See, because in order for me to call you out on your bullshit, I can't be doing the same thing, man.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. So it's really about how we live our lives. I go off the deep end, man. I get incensed when I hear, people start talking about suicide within the profession and all the PTS and like, yeah, right. Okay. But what's your take on it? And this is what I hear from the mental health professionals and the pundits and everybody. Oh, your job. Nobody should have to see and do the things that you do. And stop. That's bullshit. See, what they're doing, Randy, is they're giving that man or woman an excuse. They're giving them an out, blaming the job on unacceptable. I was doing stupid, unacceptable shit well before I ever became a cop, right? I mean, so let's stop blaming things for the reason why we make the decisions that we do. And guess what? When we do that, and this is the beauty of it, and this is like the aha moment in the room, I go, listen, you're the reason why you're effed up. It's you. And the beauty of it being you and nothing else is that you can fix you. You can be part of that solution. You don't need anything else in the world to happen except reframe and start taking some different actions. 100% on you. And so, not realizing that, if you are giving that out to blame the job or, oh, your dad was an alcoholic, that's why you're an alcoholic. Okay, but I'm a grown man and I can still make a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I mean, I have a choice? I mean, it's about the decisions I make? Yeah. Yeah. My dick didn't fall into another woman, right? Like, I made a decision to step out on my wife and my family. I did that. Oh, somebody wants to give me a pass because I never learned the communication skills. Stop. Take some ownership, right? And deal with it.
So you're removing excuses.
You have to. Because that's what keeps you stuck. As long as you have somebody else to blame, Randy, you're not going to move the needle. You're not going to change because it's not my fault. It's out of my control. I don't have any control over that. And that's poison that the longer you believe that, the longer you stay stuck.
You mentioned alcohol and character issues, and I'm thinking that we have this court case going on right now in Massachusetts. It's a murder trial, Karen Reed murder trial, and all the law enforcement involved in it are just a hot steeping mess. I mean, just an absolute mess. And all of their group text messages have been submitted as testimony, and it's predictable stuff for what you've been dealing with and talk to people about all the time. And all of them on the stand, and it's like, and the public perception, the public shock over this is like, holy shit,
shock and horror that these
people, all booze bags.
These people are the ones charged with protecting us. These guys are carrying guns.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's horrifying. Listen, that's our dirty secret, man. We can't let the public know how sideways and jacked up we are. See, because we've built this mystique that somehow we're different. We do a different job, but we're human. And everything that goes with that, man, all those failures. And so if we can't even, we don't embrace that. We hide from that. We run from that. And when something like this case comes up and everybody's looking at each other going, are you kidding me? It's been that way since the beginning of time. And the only way for that to change is to admit that we've got a problem here.
Sunlight.
Got a problem. And listen, I'm going to hell, brother. I know I'm going to. It's okay. I'm actually, oddly enough, I'm good with it, man.
I think you might not, though. You might not. You've turned the corner.
You know what?
I mean,
I
know we're
guess it
joking
depends
here,
how
but
much
seriously.
grace he's going to show me, man. But you know what? I'm okay with it. At the end of the day, if we want to be better human beings, we got to care about ourselves in a way that no one's ever taught us. Because right now, we've been putting the cart before the horse. I'm all in on fixing Randy. That's my mission. And as long as I'm consumed with fixing you, I never have to deal with my shit.
Mm.
And that we've got a whole profession whose culture revolves around fixing people, fixing situations. And we do that at the expense of ever fixing ourselves. And so what I propose is that we start with us first. We get back to the things that make us caring, loving human beings. And when we can wrestle with that, right? When we can get a handle on that, when we can define what that is and take steps to be a better person, the cop shit will follow, man. Cop stuff isn't hard stuff. Listen, the next to being a firefighter, it's the easiest job in the world, right? Put the wet stuff on the hot stuff. I mean, what else do I got to tell you, right? It's not that hard to be a firefighter. And it's certainly not that hard to be a cop. You just got to understand the importance of self-care so you can be all those things to the people that not only you purport to love, but that you swear an oath to protect and take care of.
So how did things start to go south for you? Because typically people don't go 0 to 60. It starts out slow, and then by the time somebody says, "Holy shit, I think I have a problem," you're usually knee deep in the weeds at that point.
Yeah, no doubt. And you're absolutely 100% right, Randy. So I was an alcoholic for the vast majority of my upbringing. I haven't had a drink in 27 years. I put the kibosh on it in 96. But I got high. I mean, that was the problem is when crazy becomes normal. Let's think back to our Norwich days. That was some insanity, Olympic level drinking going on there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the boys would come to my room, each with their own fifth of Jose Cuervo, and we'd polish that off, then get into a car, and then go drink at a bar.
Right.
That was the warm up. It would put most people in the ICU. Our warm up would put people in the hospital. But that's just the way it was. That's normal. If we're driving home, we got to get a case of beer for the road. Right?
Just to wash it all down.
Yeah, there was nothing in order, and it was nobody's fault. But in order for somebody to go, hey, this is not only, the thought of that we could kill somebody or kill our best pals in the car, it was never a thought. Just never. Wasn't even a consideration. And so when crazy becomes normal, you exist in that world until something horrific happens. And so I'm on the job, and I'm an alcoholic, and I go to work drunk one night. I couldn't even back out of my driveway, Randy, in full uniform, in a marked unit. I'm passed out, slumped over the wheel of my unit, trying to go to work. My wife calls a buddy, come get your drunk friend. And you know what they do? They put me to bed at a buddy's house and handle all my calls all till 4 a.m.
Cover.
Right, man. We'll take care of you. We got you. And I had a sergeant. I never made it to roll call. You remember Jim from Taxi with his hair all jet? Dude, I'm out of my mind. 4 o'clock in the morning, he wants to see me. I didn't make it to roll call. And he just looks at me and he's like, I mean, it's obvious I'm still inebriated. And he's like, "You all right?" And I'm like, "I'm good." No, you're not. No, you're not. Go home. I'm thinking I'm done. I'm done. Recently married. My career is over. I've been doing the job for a few years. Nobody's going to have my back on this one. I go into work the next night. They sit me down, 2 bosses. Last night's never going to be allowed to happen again. You got 2 choices. We can either command refer you, or you can figure this out. But one way or the other, man, you are not coming to work drunk again. So I go through EAP at work, employee assistance, and I find an AA meeting, 4 cops ran by cops. Retired Davy cop over off of University Drive in Broward County, Florida, Thursday nights at 8 o'clock, brother. And I go to my first meeting. And that's the start of me getting sober. And so you think like, all right, well, I got that taken care of, like smooth sailing. And what I did was, which I think what a lot of people do, is we just replace addictions. Like, so I'm not drinking anymore, but now I'm abusing steroids. And you think, oh, how bad could it, dude? You're inducing all these chemicals in your body that affect your mood, your mind, and mix in some traumatic events where you're not sleeping. And, you start creating a situation, throw in some infidelity, and you start creating a situation where you don't even recognize who you are. Your life starts this tailspin, and you're just along for the ride, man. Like you basically throw your hands up and a resound to the fact that this is the way it's going to be. And so, looking at doing federal time now, going to prison, buying a controlled substance by fraud, having an affair, don't want to go to jail, suspended twice now for steroids. And the room starts getting dark, brother. And you're like, I'm tired, man. Tired.
Yeah.
And, you look at me now, you're like, John, JT, come on, man. What? And you go and we get to a place where maybe you don't want to die, but you don't want to live. You could care less. You're just done. And then so you say to yourself, like, why would you ever think about hurting yourself? Why would those thoughts enter your mind? And this is what I've learned. Like, if you don't sleep, and this is going to sound so basic, if you don't sleep, your brain never has an opportunity to repair itself.
Right.
So the importance of sleep. Now, if you're going on less than 6, like I was doing 3 to 4 hours, maybe a night, you're cognitively impaired. You can't make a good decision to save you. So you wonder, why do I continue to double down on this terrible behavior? You're watching a movie. Your brain isn't repairing itself. And so you go to work, you're walking around with a brain that's not functioning. That prefrontal cortex, that thinking part of your brain, shuts down. And everything is all emotional. You get this amygdala hijack, and every decision you make is an emotional decision. And I don't have to tell you, right? Emotional decisions, good decisions,
Typically, no.
Yeah, yeah, typically no. And so what ends up happening, man, is you put yourself in a position not to care about yourself. Um, and that's that slide. That's that gradual slide, Randy, that you talk about. It's not one event.
Right.
It's it's a series of missteps and you not taking care of you. I like to say that we all experience a slide, right? A slide happens to us, could happen to us daily, could happen, but we do something to address the slide to keep it from turning into an avalanche, right? That's the key. But what happens is if you don't address life as it comes and you let those slides, right? You let that snowdrift keep piling up and you don't address it, and when that avalanche comes, man, nobody escapes that. Nobody comes out of that alive. And that's where I was at with it. I wasn't addressing any of the things in my life that I needed to survive, to win. The title of the book, Surviving Self-Inflected Wounds. Like everything that happened to me was of my making.
That's a great title because it says it right in the title. It's not, surviving the wounds of my job. It's me. I did this. And that's what I love about this conversation is it's very rare. It's rare for me. It's rare for everybody to say, uh-oh, I'm the freaking problem.
See, and again, but that's beautiful. That's the beauty of this. See, because instead of being, you want to have some shame. Okay, man, lower your head for a second. All right, there's shame. Pick your head back up. Pick your head back up. Stop beating yourself up. Right. We live in the past, man. I talk to guys that are still talking about their touchdown that they scored against Medford during a Thanksgiving football game in 1984.
It's Massachusetts. We got plenty of those guys.
I go, stop. Stop. I'm going to smack the shit out of you if you don't stop. Right. Our eyes are in front of our head because we're looking forward, man. That was great that you were a rock star in 1984. What are you doing now? And in the same regard, your failures of your past, we let them haunt us, Randy. They haunt us worse than any horror movie we've ever seen. We don't ever show ourselves. Everybody in your circle has forgiven you and has showed you grace, except you. And when you do that, when you acknowledge that that person doesn't exist anymore, that look how far I've come, not how far I have to go, right? Look how far I've come. There is no finish line. It's constant, never-ending self-improvement. So if I just look at how far I've come, maybe that's the measure I need to hold close. And in doing so, I'm not my past. I can show myself a little bit of grace, and I can figure out how tomorrow's better. Maybe I express some gratitude. If there's anybody in my neighborhood where I'm living now, and they're walking behind me, they're gonna think that there's a crazy person in front of them because I talk out loud. I'm walking Mr. Wallace around the neighborhood, and when I get up in the morning, man, I the first thing I do, and I have faith. I believe that there is something way bigger out there and more important than me. And I just say, hey, God, thank you for allowing me to wake up next to Nicole. See, because that wasn't always a guarantee, man. Right? Thank you for my daughter still living with me. I hope she never leaves. But when I'm going to be heartbroken when she does. So for the time that she's here, man, thank you. Thank you for Pete and Michelle, my in-laws. Thank you for their loving me when at times I've given them no reason to do so. Right. And I express this gratitude out verbally. You can write it down, but I do that because when I do that, I realize how blessed, regardless of what happens for the rest of the day, I've laid a foundation for being thankful for where I'm at and what's going on in my life. And does that mean that my day is going to go perfect? No, probably not. But it's going to allow me to look at whatever happens through a lens of gratitude. And I think when we do that, it's going to sound cliche, but I think when we do that, obstacles, they become opportunities. Like, hey, this happened. All right, well, now I need to figure out how to, right? Instead of looking at things that happen that aren't perfect, that's an opportunity. Maybe it's an opportunity for me to grow. It's an opportunity for me to do something different that's outside of my comfort zone. And I think that so much of what we experience and go through in life, it all depends upon the lens that we look at it through. Same situation could happen to you and me. You could think it's the best thing in the world, and I could be smashing my head against a wall, because it's a matter of perspective and the decision that you make on how to deal with that obstacle. And that's always on you. I don't mean to go on and on, Randy. One thing I talk about when I present is that serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you got to know that. Like, you have to know that. You got to know what it is you don't have control over. You got to, and what happens is we obsess over that which we have no control over. And the things that we can reach out and touch immediately, the things that we can get involved in that have a real impact, we pass on. So grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Give me the courage to change the things that I can, because, brother, Randy, that's the hard work, man. And give me the wisdom to know the difference, right? If we just remind ourselves of that prayer, life gets simple, man. Life gets simplified. What are the things I have control over? Okay. I got control over my reaction. I got control over what I decide to do or not do, right? I need to respond, not react. I need to take a moment. I need to breathe. And then I need to do the hard work of figuring it out, whatever that is. Maybe it's your relation. Maybe the relationship's not the best with the missus. Okay, do something about it. Start dating her again, right? Start dating her. Remember what you were doing when you were dating? Start doing that. It worked. It got you. It got you to, the catch, man. It got you to put a ring on a finger, man. Maybe we need just to simplify things. And, well, if it worked back then, I can guarantee you it'll work right now. And when we do that and we start taking care of ourselves and showing ourselves some grace and humility, and we can start accomplishing some amazing things, man. And it just really, all we have to do is look at life through a different lens. And I appreciate you letting me ramble on, bro.
Of course. No, there's that old saying, the truth shall set you free. I'm wondering, just from talking to you, it seems like that radical self-reflection gives you freedom or a peace once you've just accepted it.
The beauty of all of this, Randy, is that I don't give a shit. And I mean that in the nicest way, brother. You could never think as little of me as I thought of myself. Right? So I've loved meeting you. I think this is great what you're doing. But if at the end of the day, bro, if I'm not your cup of tea, okay. See, the people whose opinions I should care about are in the next room.
Right.
And so my actions need to reflect that they're the priority. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm callous and I'm mean spirited. Quite the opposite. But we spend an inordinate amount of time impressing people that we don't know.
That's true.
doing things for,
Yeah.
what are we doing? And we're concerned and consumed about their opinions, but not those of the people that are closest to us.
No, I
Like,
agree with you. I answer to very few people, and they are my wife, my mother, my son, to a certain extent.
yeah,
Those are the people
of
that I
course.
always answer there. In good graces, those are my primary relationships. So I absolutely agree with you on that. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna waste any sleep thinking what somebody on the other side of town
Oh,
thinks of
what
me.
is, I wonder, what's John think of me? Who gives a shit? Does I don't count. I don't matter.
I
And
lived this long without knowing you. I'll be
right.
okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could be all right. Yeah. Right. But don't allow me to rob you of that time and energy that you should be putting into the people that matter. I'm not that important. Right. And so, but we do the opposite, especially with our careers. Like, we give a shit at work what people think of us. I say this, hey, you get an evaluation at work, right? You're all amped up. You're really trying to impress the boss and all this. Who gives a shit? What's your evaluation look like at home?
Right.
That's the one that matters. And see, when you're in it, it's really hard to see what's important. And
It's hard to
so,
appreciate what you already have. Yeah.
yeah,
You
man,
take it for granted.
you do. And really, this freedom. Listen, man, I put my family through. Listen, you thought being an alcoholic wasn't a big deal. Addict, not a big deal. My infidelity, tell you, that's the thing I almost killed myself over. And when I look at the impact of what I did, not only against my wife, my in-laws, my daughter, my friends, my family, everything else I did in my life, all my other failures, they pale in comparison. And let me clarify. Like, getting a divorce can be the best thing in the world for somebody, right? It's not the end of the world. It's sometimes people need that break and separation, and sometimes you're a better parent. Separate. I believe that. But it's got to be an informed decision.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't making informed decisions. And when you're in that place and you're not making informed decisions, everybody pays the price, man. And
Let me ask
so,
you a question about
yeah,
messed up cops and
yeah, man.
getting other cops to get the police to police the police. It is so much easier said than done. And I'll give you an example.
Yeah,
I have a ton of friends in law enforcement and military, obviously, because of Norwich. And one of my real close friends, another guy with almost 30 years on the job, and I had this discussion with him one time, and he's a really reasonable guy. And he's like, he goes, let me give you a theoretical example. He said, let's say that there's a guy in your unit. He was obviously talking from experience, who's jacked up, and he shouldn't be a cop. He said, but let's say one night I had to pull over a car, and these three guys are beating the ever loving shit out of me, and I think I'm gonna die. And it's that guy who showed up and cleaned house and saved my ass. Theoretically, how's that going to go down when then you start trying to police this guy for maybe not being the best cop? I thought that was such a great example because I completely understand that. I know there's a quote unquote textbook answer to that. There's a right answer to that, but we're in areas where things are not always that black and white.
no,
I
nothing
mean,
is.
there's a huge challenge with that, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. And so, this is what I say, Randy. Listen, I've had my badge taken from me 3 times, investigated by the FBI for civil rights violations, looking to go to federal prison. And you can ask around, like, I'm a good cop. I was a good cop. I was a damn good cop. And I think the way we do that, I think the way we get involved in another cop's behavior, it's got to be from a place of caring. This isn't some touchy feely hug a tree bullshit response. Hear me out on this. I had a guy come to me because he cared. See, it's different. When we come to somebody, when we start talking about discipline and you're violating policy, go fuck yourself. I got nothing to say to you.
Mhm.
You know, you're going to get zero traction with me coming at me like that. But if I come to you and go, hey, Randy, brother, man, the other night, I would have died if you didn't do what you did for me. And I appreciate you, brother. But can we talk like brothers? Because you're all jacked up, man. You're sideways. And this is unacceptable, man. And you deserve better. And I don't want to see bad things happen to you. So let's go for a walk, man. Let's break bread. Let's talk. And because I care about you.
That's different.
Randy, we don't have those conversations. You know the conversations we have? You violated policy. You did this. You're a liability. And you know what? When I start hearing that, I put my wall up and I deny that there's a problem because you're looking to jam me up. If I go to you like a human being and say, hey, man, are you fucking kidding me, brother? What are you doing? Let's go for a walk. Let's sort this out, man to man. I'm buying in, man. I'm buying in. And listen, but at the end of the day, I'm letting you know, one, that something that I'm not down with whatever it is you're doing. But more importantly, two, I'm willing to be part of the solution, man. I'm willing to play my part in helping you be a better version of you. Hey, after that, man, you can wash your hands. See, but we won't even have that conversation.
Right.
And I think that if we could get back to that, if we can get back to a time of caring where we're not so overly consumed about the optics of things and policy and listen, policies were made to be broken. And
that's
I mean
that's a Norwich thing to say right there.
Yes, it's a very Norwich thing to say because it's gray, man. There's never a policy that'll address every and all situation with every and all dynamic and all the variables that are involved in life. It's a general guide. But I think that discretionary piece of what we do and the human connection piece of what we do. You know, that night I was drunk, those sergeants could have arrested me, Randy. They could have threw me in the back of the car and taken me to conduct field sobriety tests. They could have.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't. They were human. They wanted to know the why. See, we don't want to know the why. We don't even ask the question. And they were willing to find out the why and then be a part of that solution. You know, we see a guy who's an asshole. Oh, he's just an asshole. Well, maybe you don't know that he's taking care of his elderly mother or father that's got dementia, and he's absolutely heartbroken every day. And when he has to come to this place to work, he's not with them, and that's killing him.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not so much of an asshole anymore. But if we don't ask, hey brother, why you so heavy, man? Why you always angry? If you don't ever ask him, you're never going to get the answer. And that's being human, man.
Yeah.
And then
I agree with you. And I've come to that position later in life, the last 5 or 10 years or whatever, you know, a couple of years of therapy of my own.
Sure.
And now when I see somebody in public freaking out, road rage or something like that, I try not to jump to, boy, what an asshole. I jump to, man, what happened to you? What's his story? What's he dealing with that I don't know?
What kind of day is he having that it's making him react this way to a non-issue?
Right. It's usually something that's nothing too.
Exactly.
Completely freaking guys at home too with their families, just going off on something that just doesn't matter. Which shows you that's not the problem. There's something else is the problem.
Exactly.
That's just the symptom. Yeah.
Right. And so, but the only way we get to that is to ask why. And that's the other thing is we, two grown men, need to be better at having uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah.
If we care, if we want to change the culture, if we want to be part of the solution, we gotta be able and willing to do that. And that, and it gets back to fundamentally just caring.
Let's
We
shift
can,
for a second. So,
yeah, man.
so fixing the police culture is one thing. I almost think the bigger challenge is fixing the public perception of police. And I've been on this kick the last month or so because of this trial, because Massachusetts is just really in a bad place right now. State police to the town police to the DA's office to all that. People are just, they've lost all confidence in institutions. And I think, what is it going to take for the public to say, to start to look up to these people again? Because right now, the people in that town, in their town meetings and on the internet and stuff, they're all saying, I don't like this. I don't want my wife getting pulled over. I don't trust any of these people. I don't, and what they're saying is not without merit,
Right.
but it's a problem.
We didn't get here overnight, and it's not going to get fixed overnight. There was an erosion of trust. Listen, it's like, let's make the city and the police a relationship. Two friends. They don't even have to be a married couple. Two friends. When one friend does something that damages and erodes the trust, you don't throw the friendship away. You put them on notice. Hey, man, that was bullshit, and you don't talk to me that way. You don't. Maybe, right? Maybe we got to redefine some roles here. And you know what? You know what the cops never do? They never say they're sorry. They never apologize and say, we effed up. We got this wrong. We don't do that.
That's
Randy,
rare.
we don't. No, rare. Yeah. A unicorn, rare. We don't do it because God forbid we should admit we're culpable, we're liable. We're, you know what? We failed you. How about somebody have some balls, step to the mic and go, we failed you. And I'm the chief. I'm committed to rebuilding this relationship. And this is how we're going to do it. Right? Look, well, when you can't get a leader to acknowledge the injustice or the failure of their people to do the job that they were supposed to do, I can guarantee you, because I've seen this play out, when leaders don't accept responsibility, everybody takes a hit and everybody goes down. When a leader steps up and goes, my agency, my people, my responsibility. That's what people want to hear. People want to hear that somebody's taking responsibility for what's going on and that they're properly identified the issue. And what are they going to do to make sure it doesn't happen again? I don't attack that guy if I'm the public. I want to hear more from that guy because he's taking ownership. He's taking response. It wasn't him, but it was his people, but he's still taking ownership, and he's going to work with the community. We're not kissing anybody's ass. We're still the cops. We're still going to do what we have to do. But if there's been an area where we have failed, I don't know anything about what's going on up there in Mass, and it sounds like it's probably good that I don't.
Mhm.
But it has to start with acknowledging that we failed. See, every other organization admits failure except us. You got the hospital. Yeah, we left the instruments in John Kelly. We should have. We didn't count the instrument. There's one in him. He's
Right,
gonna sue.
yeah.
He's gonna sue the shit out of us. But we're not gonna let that happen again. Okay, cool. Apology accepted. There was a video of a newscaster. They got hoodwinked. Like somebody called in and put on like the teleprompter all these names. These like a Chinese airline went down.
I saw that.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
We too low. Like
Yeah.
all these names, right? And I'm crying, right? Like listening to the newscaster. We have voice recordings from the cockpit. Here is the transcript. And it's the first pilot. His name is holy shit.
Yeah.
The second, right? The bit, right?
Right. Yeah.
You know what the media, that channel does once they know that they've been scammed? They get right back on and go, "We are so sorry that we were duped. That these are not the names of somebody pulled a fast one on us, and we will do a better job of fact checking our information before we bring it to you."
I wish there'd be more of that. Yeah.
Wait, but
you're right.
guess what?
Yeah.
No outrage. No outrage after that because they took ownership. They took responsibility. And so how you get that back is and nobody has to fall on their sword, but you just need a leader to say, yeah, I understand why you're pissed. And if I was in your shoes, I'd be pissed as well. And this is what we're going to do to address it. It doesn't have to be that difficult, Randy.
Let's wrap by recognizing the real hero of this story. It sounds like Nicole, your wife, is the real hero here.
You gonna make me cry?
Trying
Brother.
to.
I can tell you. So when we were going through listen, she's been with me we've been together for over 30 years, married for 29. And she married an alcoholic. She stuck with me. She married an addict. She stuck with me. She married somebody that stepped out on her. She stuck with me. And she said this, and I want the listeners to hear this, and it's very profound. When it came to my infidelity, she said, the fact that we're in a relationship together means that I bear some responsibility for the health of this relationship. Doesn't need to be 50-50. Maybe it's 99% your fault and 1% mine. But I got to own my 1%.
Wow.
Yeah, man. See, because if you own your 1%, you can move forward. And what happens is in relationships, when shit turns sour and things go south, nobody wants to own their 1%. And so you wash your hands and you absolve yourself of the situation. She wasn't willing to do that. She realized that she played a role in the health of our relationship, in our lack of communication. Yeah, she didn't step out, but maybe, just maybe, something that she didn't do helped contribute to that extremely poor decision. And so she said that to me, and I was just like, you got to be kidding me. Right? So own your 1%, man. Regardless of what the situation is. Yeah, she man, but not only my best,
you married a saint. You married a saint.
She's my best friend. She really is. People say that, oh, I married. Listen, do what you do to your best friend that I did to my Nicole, and see if they're still standing next to you. She's an amazing woman. She's, people got this idea, oh, she, not needy. She's a strong, badass, Italian Greek girl who has loved me at times when I have given her no reason to do so. Right. And that's unconditional love, man. And I am so blessed not only to have her in my life, but family and friends that have seen a way past my indiscretions.
That's a perfect place to end. I can't tell you how much I appreciate meeting you and you coming on and talking about
man.
this stuff. The book is Surviving Self-Inflicted Wounds. I'm going to put the link for it down in the show notes for the listeners, as well as to your website. And I
Awesome.
would love to have you back on sometime.
Man,
if
it
you're
would
willing.
be my pleasure, Randy. Absolutely. Thank you so much for the time.
Well, that was a deep one. Thank you to John Kelly for coming on the show. I appreciate his time. You could check out his book on Amazon, and he's on LinkedIn. Easy to get in touch with. That's the whole episode. If you're not a subscriber, consider doing so. Just go to secondmess.com. Costs less than a cup of coffee, unless you drink that fancy stuff that Andrew Bannon drinks. But if you're busy, you don't have time to stay connected and get involved, I promise you, if you do just one thing and listen to the show every single week, you'll be more connected and more in the know on what's going on up there than anybody. So join us if you can. Fawn, read us out, please.
Thank you for listening to the Second Mess Podcast. We value your feedback. Feel free to email us your thoughts at secondmesspodcast@gmail.com. For complete information about the show and links to our social media channels, check out www.secondmess.com. Until next time, stay safe and stay connected.